Hi everyone, David here from daviddumaiaudio.com, and in this deconstructing sound design video, I wanted to deconstruct a sound effects that I made. It's a gun sound, and it's a kind of a futuristic gun sound. So before we just jump in, let's play the sound so we know what kind of the final product is, and then we'll go back and listen to it layer by layer, see how I built it from the ground up. So here we go. Again. All right, so that is the gun sound that I made. And yeah, I started from scratch. And so let's start from the very top up here. So my goal initially when I started this sound design is that in a previous video, I talked about using a monster. I was creating a robot sound, and it was one of the footsteps. And I was talking about how basically once you have that, what you can do is you can start reusing it and integrating it into other sound effects that you might be creating. So that's one of my goals that I want to do for this sound. So I had this a robot footstep sound. Right, so that's the footstep sound that I used for the robot, and I want to use that as part of this kind of gun layer. I mean, you really can't hear it once you start adding stuff, but that was my starting point right here. It was this sound, and I kind of set it as a base layer, and it's kind of the foundation for the sound. So once I did that, then I created a sound here in Omnisphere. So let's hear what this is. Let's open it up here, and let's hear what this sounds like. And yeah, there's no insert or effects. Right, so it's kind of just a synth that's getting pitched down really fast. So let's have a look at how I built this. So I chose a saw square here. I brought up the shape really high, and if we look at the modulation, so I have modulation 1 and 2 that I'm using. So for modulation 1, if I'm not mistaken, it is just, looking here, yeah, it's just pitching it down really fast. And what I'm doing for that is just the pitch. So I'm pitching the pitch down really quickly. And that's what's giving that kind of gun sound, which is very typical of a laser gun. So that's that. Second one is a modulation 2, which is affecting the synth hard sync. What is that? Is this parameter here? And all it's doing is it's shooting it down really fast as well. So they're basically kind of doing the same thing, just at different rates of speeds. And that's how I got this sound. Now, once I did that, I rendered it and placed into my DAW here, and this is the sound. Right? And then I started adding some stuff on here. So what did I add? I added a replica delay just to add some space and some width to the sound. On the EQ, I cut out the bass. I also, there's actually nothing here on this one, so this one's nothing. And then this was just to balance out the sound. So again, I put it up 3 just to make it a bit louder. And that's it for this layer here. The track spacer here, this is for just making space for other plugins. This I put in a bit later. Maybe we'll touch back on this later on. All right, so once I had that layer, so now I had these 2 layers here. So you can start to hear the footstep is kind of the base layer, and then this synth here is starting to be the body of the sound. So once I had that, then I wanted to make another layer, which was a more of a higher frequency layer. So if you think about the frequencies, I kind of had my bass with the footstep sound here. That was my bass, my thump. I had the Omnisphere here. This was kind of the body of the sound. And then I wanted something to be the higher frequency of the sound. So that's what this was. And how I did this is just noise. And let's see if I had any modulation. No modulation. I had a notch and bandpass filter here. So without it, it sounds like this. So this just adds a bit of movement in the frequency spectrum. And then, of course, I changed the amp envelope here to make it short. So now, if I put that with this other sound here that I had, right? So all together, right? So that's kind of what I started with. And if you see, if I take off this higher noise sample, like it's okay, but you're missing that high end frequency information. And then with it, right? So you get all the frequencies there. So once I did that, let's see what this layer is here. I think this is a music stand impact that I had. Yep. And then what did I do here? I must have started with the EQ here, which is just to cut out the bass. Yep. I added some pitch shifting to pitch it down 3. There you go. And spectre, which is a bit of saturation, just to fill out the frequencies there. So if I take that off and we listen to it, it really just brings out the top end of the sound a bit more. And of course, this is just to balance it out. So this was kind of going to be more of my thought process for this part here. Now that I had the 3 frequencies filled out, this was supposed to be more of a mechanical kind of layer, or a metal type of layer, something a bit more grounded in reality, more in a real sound. So once I had that, it sounded like this. And you can see, you can barely hear it. But it does make a difference. You can definitely notice it when it's not there. All right, so for the next layer, I think I wanted to add more to the body of the sound. So let's hear what this is. Yeah, so I want to add more to the body of this sound because I thought the first synth sound up here just wasn't enough. It wasn't filling out the sound enough. So I wanted to layer it with something else. So this is what I came up with. Let's see how I created this. Let's see what pitch this is. There we go. Okay. So let's see how I created this. So modulation, I have mod 1, 2, 3, and 4 that I'm using here. So let's see what that looks like. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right? So they're all just pitching the sound or whatever I'm modulating just down, basically. So let's see what I'm actually modulating here. So first one is the synth hard sync here, which is, again, this parameter. So all it's doing is bringing it down really fast, like that. So the way I kind of did this, if you've watched any of my other videos, what I talk about is to kind of create these layers, create these sounds, is I'll play a note like this. And then as I'm playing it in real time with my mouse, I'll just grab a parameter and I'll play around with it just to see what it sounds like. See what it sounds like if I move it slow, see what it sounds like if I move it fast. And if I like the sound that I'm kind of getting out of it, then I'll attach it to a modulation. So that's what I did for this one. So for the hard sync, I put it to modulation 1 and yeah. And then I attached it, moved around the amount, and yeah, and then it was modulating by itself. So now I didn't have to do it by itself. And then I did the same thing with this parameter, attached it again to the modulation 2. What else did I have here? Wave shear per depth and the pitch. So obviously the pitch is going down just like the other layer, the other body layer of the gun sound. And I also added a wave shaper. So if I take this off, that's what it sounds like, which is pretty cool. I just thought that was nice. It's a bit of a higher pitch layer. You could probably work with this too, though. I wonder what that would sound like. Anyways, yeah, so that's what I did there. And then I modulated this frequency here. So I modulated that. And now if I add that to the other sounds, if I take it off, right? So now it's starting to fill out the sound a bit more, which is good. I still thought I was missing something, so I went for another layer, another synth layer to add that kind of sci-fi texture, laser texture. And let's see what I got for this one. I think this one I wanted more of a bass layer, so that's what I did for this one. So let's see what I have here. Again, okay, so mod 1 is modulating the pitch, so it's just bringing the pitch down really fast. Actually, not even. So what I'm doing is I'm playing with the pitch, so it's going down really fast, up, and then down. And that's how we're getting that sound. So if I went back into my modulation matrix here and I turned it off, you can hear it's just a bass, sub-bass sound. Right, so I used a sine because I want it to be really low. And as you can see here, I actually brought down the pitch all the way down so that it can be really low when I'm starting. So I'm playing whatever, a C, an A2 here, but what it actually is like an A0. So it's really a sub note. And then I'm modulating it with this modulation here. And then I added an effect here. Let's see what this is. A chorus. Yeah, so I just added a chorus. This is probably just a preset that I chose. And yeah. So let's hear all that together now. Let's see what that sounds like. So without that bass layer. Right, so it definitely makes a difference. You can definitely hear it. And the reason I actually made this bass layer a little bit different, so all the other sounds, if you recall, all the envelopes, they're all just going straight down. They're just pitching straight down. For the bass, though, I want it to be different so that it can kind of stand out and yeah, just have more impact to the sound. And the way I did that is by spacing out the transients. So just by pitching it down really fast and then back up really fast, it really spaces out the transients with the other sounds and adds just more impact to the sound. So that's kind of my reasoning for why I created this kind of different envelope here for the pitch. All right, so once I had that in place, what I did is I just exported it and I put it right in here. Now you'll notice it sounds very different if you listen here. This sound to this sound. And the reason for that is because I actually added a lot of processing, a lot of some parallel processing, some reverb, and other processing. So let's see kind of what I did here. So if I look here, so actually, so let's solo this gunshot so we know exactly what we're looking at. Okay, here we go. All right, so the gunshot, I'm setting it to 3 different effects chains here. So let's see what those are. So the first one I created was actually this one here. And what it is, it's this. So this is Trash by Isotope, which is just a saturation. So I'm just going to do that so we can actually hear it. Okay, great. So here we go. So let's hear what that sounds like. So I turned off the 2 others. So just with this one effects chain, let's hear what this sounds like. Now without it. Right, so it's not a big difference, but you can definitely hear it. So what I'm hearing is a bit of more lower end and a bit more distortion, obviously, because this is what this Trash is doing here. It's kind of distorting the sound. So that's my first plugin that I put on there. After that, I put a bit of EQ so that I would really lower the bass, because if I didn't have that, I thought it was a bit too bassy. So this is what it sounded like. So I really cut the bass out with this. And with this one, this is a compressor, so I really compressed it really hard. Right, as you can see, like it's all the way down. Right, so that's how I got that sound like that. The next one I did was just to add some flanger. If you can hear it, I'll kind of turn it on and off, but if you listen, it just kind of adds a bit of width, and you can hear an extra sound. It's like a pitching sound. It really adds, I guess, a bit more of that sci-fi characteristic to the gun. So I'll toggle it on and off, so see if you can hear what it's adding to the sound. right? So it's just an extra thing. So all together now with those two. Right, and then my last effect chain that I brought it to is just a reverb. And that's how I got these this sound from my original sound up here. So that's what I did for that. Now, once I had that, I still wanted to add a bit more punch and impact. So what I did was I recorded some little screws and metal pieces, and this is what I got. Right, so it's just me dropping a screw down on another screw and other metal pieces, and this is the sound I recorded. I added Spectre on here, which is just some more saturation, especially in the low end to beef it up. So let's see what it sounds like if I toggle it on and off. Right, so it really kind of brings out a bit of that low end around 200. And now with these two together now, let's see what we have. So let's see, I'll toggle it on and off with this extra layer here. Whoops. See if you can hear the difference. So what I'm really hearing is a lot of the transient at the start of that gunshot. So it's really adding a punch to the sound. Right, so that's what this layer was for. Once I had that, then I wanted to add kind of a, I think this is my mechanical layer. Yeah, so let's see how I created this one. So without any effects. And the way I got this is actually just me recording like a tripod stand that I have for my camera. And I'm just flipping it up and down and playing around with it. And then I just kind of chopped it up and brought it in. And this is the sound. Right, so once I had that, I added some EQ just to cut out the low end because it really wasn't necessary to have any low ends. That's already covered in the frequency spectrum. Added some flanger to make it. So my idea with this one is that I want it to be a mechanical layer, but because it's kind of a futuristic sound, I kind of tried to make the mechanical layer futuristic as well. So I did that by adding a flanger and a chorus. So this is the flanger, and then this is the chorus. And that's the sound. And then I think so I cut out a bit of the top end because it's kind of a bit too much resonance to my liking. So I cut that out, and then I balanced it out with a gain here. That's what that is. And all together. And that's what that sound is right there. And then finally, to finish off the sound, I really wanted to add a sub layer, just to add a lot of punch to the sound and low end to the sound. So that's what this is. And for this layer, I used Track by Native Instruments, which is just a kick sampler. So if I play it by itself, this is what it is. And I didn't do much with it. This is actually just a preset linear fashion here, preset number 6. I don't know if I added anything. Yeah, I didn't add anything except for some gain just to balance out with the other layers. So yeah, that's it. And now let's hear it all together. Right, so, and that's how I made this gun sound. So let's start from the beginning, and I'll play through the progression all the way to the end so you guys can have a listen and hear kind of the progression of the sound. So one more time, let's have a listen. And there you go. That's basically it for this sound. This is how I created it. Yeah, it's not the most complex or the best sound out there, but it's just one way that I created this kind of gun sound. I want to share that with you guys. Hopefully you found that useful. You can kind of see my process and hopefully a bit of my thinking behind how I'm creating my sounds and how I'm getting to the result that I'm getting here. So anyways, I hope that you guys found that valuable and helpful. And that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.